Ladies and gentlemen, gather around because the FA has officially thrown in the towel on English football purity and called in the big guns, a German mastermind, Thomas Tuchel, to finally bring the World Cup home. That's right. England's secret weapon for international success is not an Englishman, but hey, desperate times call for desperate measures, and let's be real, Gareth Southgate in penalty shootouts was starting to feel like watching a bad horror movie sequel, predictable and painful. So is Tuchel the tactical genius who will turn England's golden generations into actual winners? Or are we setting up for another World Cup campaign full of hope, expectation, and heartbreak? Let's find out. 1. Who is Thomas Tuchel, and why is he England's new savior? For those of you who don't follow football religiously, or only show up when England reaches a semi-final, Thomas Tuchel is the guy who won the Champions League with Chelsea in 2021. That's right. England's best shot at football and glory is being led by a man who was sacked by Chelsea and Bayern Munich in record time. But let's give credit where it's due. Tuchel is a tactical genius. He's the guy who made Neymar and Mbappe look like team players at PSG, an achievement so rare it belongs in a museum. He turned Chelsea into European champions with a defense so solid, even England's post-Brexit border controls were jealous. And now Tuchel has a new challenge, trying to turn England's eternally promising squad into actual winners. But let's be real. If Tuchel thinks dealing with the egos at PSG and Bayern was tough, wait until he faces the English media after a 1-1 draw against Scotland. One misplaced pass, and suddenly the Sun will be running headlines about how he's destroying the English way of football. Hiring Tuchel is like calling in a German engineer to fix your leaky faucet. You just know it's going to be efficient, precise, and probably involve a confusing tactical diagram. If England wins the World Cup under a German manager, expect history teachers across the country to go on strike. Tuchel's got that mad scientist energy. He's not just here to win, he's here to revolutionize the England team like he's designing the next Tesla of football tactics. If Tuchel does win the World Cup, he might become more popular in England than fish and chips. And that's saying something. 2. England's golden generations, a team of almost winners. Ah yes, the famous golden generations, a term England loves to throw around every 20 years before getting knocked out in the quarterfinals. This time we've got Harry Kane, Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden, and a bunch of other incredibly talented players who on paper should be unstoppable. But then again, England's been here before. Remember the Beckham, Gerrard, Lampard era? That golden generation was about as successful as a British summer, hyped up every year but always disappointing. But what makes this generation different? Well, for starters, they've actually reached a final. Unlike their predecessors who were allergic to even making it past the quarters, this group made it all the way to the Euro 2024 final, only to lose in the most English way possible, on penalties. So, progress? Yes. Trauma? Also yes. The real question now is whether they'll learn from that heartbreak or just become the next episode of England, the Nearly Men on Netflix. Calling them a golden generations before they win anything is like calling yourself a millionaire because you have a savings account. England's football history is basically a Netflix series that keeps getting renewed despite having the same tragic ending every season. The last time England won a World Cup, the Beatles were still together. Let that sink in. If you ever feel bad about your personal failures, just remember England has had multiple golden generations and only one World Cup trophy. 3. Tuchel's strengths. Can he handle the pressure? Now let's talk about Tuchel's biggest strengths. First off, the guy knows how to set up a defense. No more last-minute collapses. No more England fans holding their breath in stoppage time. Maybe, just maybe, we won't have to see Jordan Pickford play the role of World Cup hero and heartbreak victim in every knockout stage. Secondly, Tuchel actually studies his opponents. Unlike previous managers who seem to rely on good vibes and penalties, Tuchel will have a tactical plan. Will it be a genius masterstroke or a 5-3-2 formation so confusing even the players don't understand it? Only time will tell. But let's not forget Tuchel's secret weapon, his ability to turn underdogs into champions. Remember Chelsea in 2021? He took over mid-season, walked into a dressing room full of players suffering from Lampard hangover syndrome, and within months, had them lifting the Champions League trophy. If he can work that kind of magic with a broken Chelsea squad, imagine what he could do with England's actual talent pool. The only thing standing in his way, the time it takes for the British media to turn on him after a goalless draw with Slovenia. If anyone can stop England from defending like a group of nervous interns on their first day, it's Tuchel. Tuchel preparing for a World Cup game is like a scientist in a lab, running simulations. Meanwhile, other managers just tell their players to give it 110% and believe in themselves. Tuchel is the kind of manager who has a backup plan for his backup plan. Southgate was the kind of manager who just hoped for the best and packed extra waistcoats. England's previous game plans were so predictable, even my grandma could coach against them. With Tuchel, at least there's an element of surprise. Whether that surprise is good or bad is a different story. 4. The challenges. A German coaching England? What could go wrong? Now let's address the elephant in the room. Tuchel is German, and he's coaching England in international football. Historically speaking, this is like putting a cat in charge of a group of mice and hoping for harmony. Also, Tuchel has never managed a national team before, club football. No problem, but national teams, that's a whole different beast. Limited time with players, no ability to sign transfers, and the expectation of instant success. It's like being asked to cook a 5-star meal with ingredients you didn't choose, and half of them are injured. And then there's the British press, perhaps the toughest opponent Tuchel will face. If he thinks dealing with PSG's boardroom politics or Bayern Munich's impatience was bad, wait until he sees the back pages after an uninspiring draw against Poland. One tactical misstep, and suddenly he'll be the subject of a 3-hour TalkSport meltdown, a Twitter campaign calling for Sam Allardyce's return, and a Daily Mail headline about how German efficiency is ruining the English game. Managing a club is like a long-term relationship. Managing a national team is like speed dating. You don't really have time to fix mistakes, you just pray it works out. Tuchel might be a tactical genius, but can he survive the classic England fanbase meltdown after a 0-0 draw against Tunisia? England fans turn on their managers faster than reality TV contestants turn on each other. Tuchel will go from hero to villain in the time it takes for England to lose a penalty shootout. If Tuchel can survive the British media storm, he can survive anything. The man might need therapy sessions before the World Cup even starts. 5. Will England win the 2026 World Cup? So, will Tuchel be the man to finally bring football home? Or will England fans have to update their "we were robbed" excuses for another generation? Look, Tuchel's got the skills, the squad is stacked, and England has a real chance. But let's not forget, the 2026 World Cup is bigger than ever with 48 teams. That means more games, more chances for chaos, and more ways for England to find new and creative ways to self-destruct. And let's be honest, England winning a World Cup is the footballing equivalent of spotting Bigfoot. It's possible. There's a lot of hype, but it hasn't actually happened since 1966. If Tuchel pulls this off, expect a national holiday, a statue outside Wembley, and the Prime Minister probably trying to take credit for it somehow. The real question isn't whether England will win, it's what weird, heartbreaking way they'll get knocked out this time. If England does win, expect an entire generation of children to be named Thomases in his honor. Tuchel winning the World Cup with England would be the ultimate Uno reverse card for football history. If England wins, the FA will probably offer Tuchel a lifetime contract, a knighthood, and the keys to Buckingham Palace. If England loses, well, at least Tuchel can always go back to managing Bayern Munich for 6 months before they fire him again. Closing thoughts. England's fate in Tuchel's hands. So what do you think? Can Tuchel actually lead England to World Cup glory? Or is this just another chapter in England's book of what could have been? Drop your predictions in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for more football chaos. And remember, if you ever doubt your life choices, just remember, the FA hired a German to win the World Cup for England. See you next time.